Discussion video for April 13th, 2022. It is lava here. A severe weather outbreak is very likely later today, with some flooding concerns and, of course, blizzard conditions continuing in the Dakotas and eastern Montana. We're going to take a look at it right now. We do have some severe thunderstorm warnings earlier today across this area here. And earlier this morning, there was a tornado watch in Mississippi that has since dissipated. Now we have critical fire conditions for parts of Nebraska all the way towards southern Texas. We do have some wind issues in South Dakota, and we do continue to have winter storm and blizzard conditions for parts of North South Dakota and Montana. We do have two flood watches here, or free flood watches. The first flood watches were two counties in Wisconsin that's to the lake. The second flood watch is issued for parts of a few counties in very southern Illinois, um, northwestern Tennessee, northeastern Arkansas, two counties in the very southeastern Missouri, and western counties in Kentucky. We do also have another flood watch here. This was posted by the NWS in New Orleans. Another flood watch has now been issued for Hammond, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Homa, Hammond. So we do have three separate small areas with flooding concerns, and I wouldn't be surprised if the National Weather Service decided to expand on some flood watches today, um, due to the potential situation of multiple rounds of storms depending on your location. Temperatures right now, we're going to set this up here. A lot of 60s and 70s with a very, very terrifying cold pool out to the west here. With that cold front now across parts of Oklahoma and Texas. So here are the two mesoscale discussions that are going on technically right now. There is an increasing coverage of trending thunderstorms with 2 inches an hour rainfall rates, and with intensifying moisture conversions, they do say some flash flooding is possible across parts of southern Missouri, central to northwestern Arkansas, and eastern Oklahoma. Also, we do note there is a small area of a mesoscale discussion with only a 20% chance of going watch here. That's along the cold front, and that's for parts of Missouri and Illinois. A couple of strong to locally severe storms are possible for the mid-morning. Storm coverage magnitude will likely prelude a watch in the short term. So that's interesting here. Here's the surface analysis. That MCS complex is now starting to die out, but as you can see, there might be a little boundary for me here. I'll be very curious on the future looks of that to see if there's any boundaries for me. Because that is a pretty complex MCS here. You can even see on the radar, it looks to be the low pressure looks good enough that maybe even it looks like a small eye on radar, which is pretty which is very interesting. Every group's got morning convection all over the place. So I'm very curious to see what happens here. And of course, we do have the storm reports from yesterday. A decent chunk of them across the Midwest and a decent chunk across Texas and Louisiana here. And then today, we already have a few hail reports back off to the west. So we're gonna do your critical fire risk first because that is not the main story. And I want to get this out of the way here. Critical fire risk seeks an effect for parts of central and western Texas, eastern New Mexico, and small parts of Colorado. Your biggest news is the moderate risk of severe weather. A 10 to 15 sig area of tornadoes is possible to likely across northwestern Mississippi, eastern Arkansas, southeastern Missouri, a very tiny sliver of southern Illinois, and very western Kentucky, sadly including Paducah and Mayfield. The 10% goes all the way to central Illinois and central Indiana, and it goes all the way to um, northern Louisiana and central Mississippi. And we do have a small area of a 10 sig across a very extreme areas of northwest Alabama. And of course, the 5% spreads out all the way to central Alabama and all the way to southern Wisconsin and Michigan. But eastern Texas and very eastern Oklahoma. We do also have a small 2% chance here for the states of New York and Pennsylvania, and very tiny parts of Maryland and West Virginia. Here's your hail outlook. Of course, you got a very small area of hail for that same area. It has now been upgraded to a 30 sig hail. And that is for the same areas with the 15 sig for tornadoes, basically. And here is your damaging wind. It hasn't changed a lot. Also, the Weather Prediction Center has a slight risk of flash flooding for Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, central and western Kentucky, central and western Tennessee, southeastern Louisiana, western Alabama, and the whole state of Mississippi. And real quick, we do want to mention the blizzard warnings do continue with 12 to 18, 11 to 17. Still pretty enormous snowfall potential in North Dakota. Day 2, a marginal risk of severe weather to defend from the northeast United States all the way to southeast Alabama and the Florida Peninsula. And there's your flash flooding outlook. A small marginal risk of flooding for parts of Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey states, and then a small marginal for um, the Panhandle of Florida and southern Alabama, and a very tiny sliver of Mississippi. And of course, on day 3, a marginal risk of severe weather for parts of Mississippi, Arkansas, Oklahoma, small parts of Louisiana, and Texas. That was your weather discussion video for today. The reason why this one is so short is because of the pending severe weather event today. And this is the blizzard, severe weather, and a lot of your fire conditions are ending today. So today could be the biggest day for severe weather. And the blizzard and the fire conditions are dying down a bit. So we will see what happens later. See ya.